The wrong stroller. It was a bright Saturday morning at Willow Creek Park. Parents strolled, dogs barked, and the laughter of children filled the air. Maya Pearson sipped iced coffee as her 9-month-old daughter, Lila, slept peacefully in her stroller. She was meeting her friend Rachel, who had a baby the same age. "Mind if I use the restroom quick?" Rachel asked. "Sure, I got them both," Maya replied, rocking Lila's stroller gently. Rachel's stroller, nearly identical to Maya's, stood parked beside it. 2 black Up-A-Baby Vista models, 2 sleeping babies, or so she thought. When Maya turned her head to answer a text, she didn't notice the tall man in a trench coat walk by. Didn't notice the brief pause in his step. Didn't hear the whisper. By the time she looked back, everything seemed the same, except the baby in the left stroller, Lila's, was staring at her and smiling too widely. Back at home, Maya started noticing things. Lila wouldn't take her usual formula. She laughed when Maya stubbed her toe and cried. She stared at walls for minutes. She mimicked Maya's voice, perfectly. "Ma, Ma," she said at first, then later that evening. "Stop touching me." Clear, adult, cold. Maya gasped. You said that?" "Did I?" said the baby, grinning. She called Rachel in a panic. "Is Jake acting weird?" Rachel hesitated. "He hasn't blinked all day." That night, Maya watched the baby monitor. At 2:44 a.m., Lila stood up in her crib, without support, and walked smoothly to the camera. She leaned in. "Wrong one," she whispered. Then the feed cut to black. The police found nothing. Pediatrician said Lila was just advanced. Only Maya knew this wasn't her baby. Maya drove to Willow Creek Park the next morning with one goal: swap the strollers again. Undo whatever had been done. She arrived just before dawn. Fog blanketed the park. She walked the path, pushing the stroller. Then she saw her. Another mother. Identical stroller. A baby inside, with Lila's birthmark. Maya ran. "Wait, that's my daughter." The other mother turned slowly. She had no eyes, only skin, pale, stretched. Behind her, the baby giggled. Maya pushed forward, heart racing. The 2 strollers touched. The babies stared at each other. Both smiled. Both opened their mouths wide, wider than humanly possible, and screamed. The sound made trees shudder. Maya blacked out. She woke in her bed. Sunlight streamed in. Lila was cooing beside her. Just Lila. Normal, smiling, laughing like always. Maya cried with relief. Maybe it had all been a dream. Until Lila leaned close, put a tiny hand on her mother's lips, and whispered in a deep, unfamiliar voice, "Next time, pay better attention." 2 strollers' babies screamed, trees shudder. Woke in her bed, sunlight, Lila cooing, normal, relief. Whispered unfamiliar voice, "Pay better attention." Playdate in the fog. The town of Grey Ridge was known for 2 things: endless fog and the legend of the hollow child. Nobody believed it, of course, not in the modern day. But every few years, someone's pet would go missing. A child would wander off, and the old folks would mutter the name again. The hollow child. It always came with the fog. Jessie Winters had heard the story growing up, but she never cared for ghost tales. Now, as a new mother to a 1-year-old named Max, she focused on practical things: feeding schedules, naps, and baby-proofing. Her husband Derek worked late shifts, so she was alone most evenings. Their little house stood near the edge of the forest, a quiet place surrounded by trees, where the fog rolled in thick by dusk. That week, the fog came early. By 4 p.m., you couldn't see past the porch. Jessie closed the curtains, locked the doors, and turned on the baby monitor. Max was napping peacefully upstairs, holding his plush giraffe. She settled on the couch with tea, the monitor on the coffee table. Then the sound came, a giggle. Not Max's, older, echoing. Jessie stared at the monitor. Max sat up suddenly in his crib, staring toward the window. "Max?" she whispered. Something moved behind him. In the fog outside the nursery window, 2 small handprints appeared on the glass. Jessie jumped up, sprinted upstairs. The window was closed, locked, no handprints. Max was lying back down, humming softly. She checked the monitor. Nothing was saved, just static. The next day it got worse. Max refused to eat. He sat quietly, staring into corners as if waiting. When Jessie tried to put him down for a nap, he screamed, not cried, screamed like a voice too old for his tiny throat. That night, the monitor flickered again. This time, the feed showed 2 babies in the crib. One was Max, the other had no eyes. Jessie rushed in. Only Max was there, sitting up and clapping. The plush giraffe lay torn in half beside him. Derek didn't believe her. "You're exhausted," he said. "It's the stress." But Jessie knew what she saw. That night, she stayed in the nursery, rocking Max to sleep. At 2:12 a.m., fog seeped inside the room. It poured from the closet like smoke. From inside the fog came a lullaby, soft, whispered. "Come play, come crawl, come fall away." Jessie backed toward the door, clutching Max. From the fog, a small child stepped out. Pale, hollow eyes, smiling with sharp little teeth. "Your baby came to see me last night," it whispered. "Now I came to see you." Jessie screamed. The figure vanished. The fog sucked back into the closet. Max slept like nothing had happened. She packed their bags that morning. "We're going to Grandma's," she said. But when she tried to start the car, the engine wouldn't turn. The fog surrounded the house by noon. The power went out by 3 p.m. Max disappeared by 4. She had only left him for a second, to grab diapers. When she returned, the crib was empty. Only the plush giraffe remained, soaked in fog. She found Max hours later, in the woods, standing still among the trees. His face was blank. The hollow child stood beside him. It smiled at Jessie. "He likes me more," it whispered. "He followed me. We played tag. He wants to stay." "No!" Jessie screamed, running forward. Max looked at her, confused. "Mommy?" he said, then looked at the hollow child. "Which one is real?" Jessie blinked. There were 2 Maxes now, identical. One held the giraffe, the other held the hollow child's hand. "Pick," said the creature. Jessie hesitated. The one on the left began to cry. The one on the right smiled. She chose the left. Grabbed him. Ran. Behind her, the forest shrieked. They never saw the hollow child again, but sometimes at night, when Max sleeps, he whispers to the dark, "I miss my other mommy." The baby monitor. It started with a baby monitor. Jason and Claire Thompson had left their 11-month-old daughter, Sophie, with a trusted babysitter, Claire's younger sister, Megan, for just one evening. It was their anniversary. Dinner, a movie, maybe a night drive through the hills. Before leaving, Jason set up their high-end baby monitor system, 1080p night vision camera with cloud backup, motion sensors, and real-time app notifications. "Text us if anything feels weird," Claire told Megan. "No worries," Megan smiled. "Sophie and I will be watching cartoons." At 8:45 p.m., Claire checked the monitor app from the restaurant. Sophie was sleeping soundly in her crib, bathed in soft blue night light. At 9:03 p.m., Claire received a push notification. "Motion detected. Nursery." She tapped the feed. The camera showed Sophie standing in her crib, pointing at something off-screen. Megan was nowhere in sight. "Probably just woke up," Jason said, sipping wine. "She's probably getting Megan." But at 9:05 p.m., another notification came. "Motion detected. Living room." Claire tapped it. This time it showed Megan, but not right. She was walking backward, slowly. Her head tilted down, arms stiff at her sides like a puppet being pulled by invisible strings. Jason leaned in. "What the hell?" The lights in the video flickered. Megan stepped into the hallway, still walking backward. Claire tapped the intercom button. "Megan, are you okay?" No response. Then came the third notification. "Camera offline, nursery." Claire's stomach dropped. Jason stood up. "We're going home, now." 9:26 p.m., Thompson residence. The house was silent. Jason called for Megan. No reply. The living room was empty, the couch cushions scattered. One of the baby toys lay on its side, spinning slowly. Claire rushed upstairs. The nursery door stood wide open. The crib was empty. But not just empty. Every item inside was gone. Sheets, blanket, stuffed animals. Even the mobile above the crib was missing. Only the camera remained, ripped off the wall and placed neatly in the center of the floor, lens facing the ceiling. Jason found Megan in the bathroom. She stood in front of the mirror, muttering something under her breath. Her eyes were rolled back. Her reflection was smiling, though her real face wasn't. Claire screamed. Jason shook her. "Where's Sophie?" Megan's head snapped forward. Her voice was calm. She followed the tall man. He came through the mirror. The police came. They found no signs of forced entry. No footprints, no fingerprints. The cloud storage for the monitor footage had been erased, wiped clean, like nothing was ever recorded. Megan was hospitalized. She repeated the same sentence for days. He came through the mirror. He took her. He lives in the wires. 2 nights later, Claire couldn't sleep. Jason sat in the nursery drinking. Then, the baby monitor, now disconnected from Wi-Fi, turned on. The screen blinked, static. Then, video, Sophie in her crib. Jason gasped. "Claire! She's back!" They ran upstairs, empty. Crib still gone. But the monitor showed Sophie clearly, sleeping. And behind her, a tall, shadowy figure with no face. It turned slowly toward the camera and reached out. The feed cut to black. After that, every night the baby monitor turns on at 3 a.m. It shows Sophie, still a baby, never growing older. Sometimes she plays with her toys. Sometimes she stares at the camera and whispers, "Mommy?" And sometimes the tall man stands behind her, holding her gently, like a doll. He never blinks, never leaves. Crawl space. The Jamesons had just moved into their new home in Vermont, an old colonial house with creaky floorboards, stained glass windows, and a long, narrow crawl space that wrapped beneath the entire structure. "It's perfect," said Leah, bouncing their 10-month-old son Noah on her hip. "Just needs a little love," Jack replied, slapping one of the cracked support beams. They didn't have much, but they had each other, and this house, bought cheap at an estate auction, felt like a fresh start. They laughed at the cobwebs, joked about the spooky basement, and promised to renovate room by room. Noah, of course, cared for none of it. He was just learning to crawl, and to Leah's dismay, had already developed a knack for disappearing behind furniture, under tables, and once, terrifyingly, into an open kitchen cabinet. It was on the 3rd night that things began to shift. Leah was folding laundry when she heard it, a soft knock beneath her feet. She paused, listened. Another knock. Slow. Hollow. Coming from beneath the floorboards. "Noah?" she called. No reply. She raced into the living room. Jack was watching TV, half asleep. "Where's the baby?" "I thought he was with you." Panic bloomed in her chest. She found the nursery door wide open. The baby gate was intact. But Noah was gone. Then came the giggle. It echoed from the vents. They followed the sound to the hallway closet. Jack pulled open the door and stared. The crawl space entrance lay wide open, its cover pushed aside. "Noah," Leah whispered. Jack dropped to his knees and pointed the flashlight inside. There at the far end, barely visible in the flickering light, was Noah, sitting up, smiling, staring at something deeper in the shadows. "Come here, buddy," Jack called gently. But Noah didn't move. Instead, he reached out, and another hand reached back, not Jack's, not Leah's. A long, pale hand with too many knuckles emerging from the darkness. Jack lunged forward, crawling fast through the narrow tunnel. Leah screamed behind him. The light flickered again, and then Noah was gone. So was the hand. So was Jack. Silence. Leah screamed into the tunnel until her throat burned, but there was no response. Only a new sound began. Soft breathing, very close, coming from inside the walls. The next day, Leah called the police. A full search was conducted. The crawlspace had no hidden doors, no exits, and no sign of Jack or Noah. The only thing found was a baby rattle. When asked about the house's previous owners, the neighbors stayed quiet. All but one old man finally muttered, "That house don't want to be empty. It likes to keep one, sometimes two." That night, Leah refused to sleep. She sat in the nursery, rocking slowly, shotgun on her lap. Then she heard Noah's laugh again. It came from the vent. She leaned close. "Noah?" A whisper came back. "Mama." Tears filled her eyes. "Where are you, baby?" The vent grill began to rattle. Slowly, a note slid out. Scrawled in crayon in shaky letters, "Down here, come play." Leah didn't hesitate. She pulled open the crawl space and climbed in. She never came out. Now, people say if you press your ear to the floorboards at night, you'll hear crawling. Small hands pattering. And sometimes, a voice. "Mama? Dada? I'm not alone down here. I found friends. They're hungry too." The crib at Hollow Creek. It was supposed to be a peaceful getaway. Emma and Ryan Harper had rented the secluded Hollow Creek cabin to escape city life for a week. Tucked deep within the woods of New Hampshire, the rustic cabin had no neighbors, no cell service, and only one dusty road leading in and out. They brought along their 9-month-old daughter, Lily, eager to introduce her to nature. The first 2 days were uneventful. Quiet walks, dinners by candlelight, and baby giggles echoing through pine trees. On the third night, the peace fractured. At 2:36 a.m., Emma woke with a start. Something had stirred in the baby monitor, a soft thump. She turned toward Ryan, who was snoring softly, and reached for the monitor. The screen showed Lily asleep in her portable crib, tucked in with her favorite elephant plush. She stared for a moment longer. The elephant plush was on the floor across the room. Emma blinked. She could have sworn it was inside the crib earlier. Shrugging it off as sleepy confusion, she went back to bed. The next morning, Ryan frowned as he watched the monitor's recording. "Emma, watch this." The footage showed Lily sitting up in her crib at around 2:30 a.m. She reached toward something just out of frame. The plush elephant levitated gently and floated out of the crib. Lily clapped. Then, with no warning, she lay back down and closed her eyes. "No way that's real," Ryan whispered. They blamed it on a monitor glitch. Perhaps some trick of infrared. Yet that entire day, Emma felt watched. Birds wouldn't chirp. The wind stayed eerily still. When she tried to take Lily for a walk, the stroller wheels refused to roll, as if something pressed back. That night, they double-checked all windows and doors, placing Lily between them in bed. At 1:13 a.m., Emma woke up again. The bed was cold where Lily had been. She sat up with a gasp. "Ryan, she's gone." The room was quiet, too quiet. No cries, no thumps. They tore through the cabin in a frenzy, shouting Lily's name. No response. The front door was locked, windows intact. Then they heard it, the faintest giggle. Outside. Ryan grabbed a flashlight and ran barefoot out the door. Emma followed, heart thundering. The beam caught movement among the trees. There stood Lily, or what looked like Lily. She was upright, standing perfectly still in the clearing. Her little arms stretched out. But something was off. Her head was tilted too far, almost upside down, and her eyes. They weren't blue anymore. They were jet black. "Lily?" Emma croaked. The figure twitched. Then it scuttled backward into the woods on all fours. Unnaturally fast, Ryan gave chase. Emma screamed for him to stop, but he was already swallowed by the trees. Minutes passed, then hours. By sunrise, there was no sign of Ryan. Emma called the police when she reached the road, but they found no footprints, no baby, no man. The only thing left behind was the plush elephant. It was hanging by its ear from a branch above the crib. 5 days later, Emma stayed in a motel in town, refusing to return to the cabin. She became obsessed with watching the baby monitor footage from the cloud backup. On the last clip recorded at exactly 1:13 a.m., Lily was asleep in bed between her parents. Then, without waking, she began to levitate. Slowly, she rose off the bed and drifted upward toward the ceiling. A pale hand reached down from the darkness. It had 8 fingers. It cradled Lily gently, almost lovingly, then pulled her into the shadows. The screen cut to static. Present day. Locals say you can hear a baby laughing in the woods around Hollow Creek, especially near the old cabin. Sometimes hikers go missing. Sometimes they find plush toys nailed to trees. And if you're really unlucky, you might catch a glimpse of her, standing still in the woods, head tilted, arms wide, waiting for someone to play. The stroller on Sycamore Street. It started like a neighborhood joke. An abandoned stroller was found one morning on Sycamore Street. Brand new, bright pink, still gently rocking as if someone had just stepped away. Only, no baby inside. Mrs. Darnell, the woman who found it, wheeled it to the nearby police station. By the time she arrived, the stroller was empty again. But this time, the faintest sound of crying echoed from inside it. The officer laughed nervously. Probably a doll with a voice box. But when he leaned in, the stroller bit his hand. Not the metal, not the wheels. Something inside bit him. By the next morning, 2 more strollers appeared. One on Oak Street, one in the park. No parents, no missing reports. Neighbors started whispering. The babies are walking themselves. Maybe they're not babies at all. Security footage from the park caught something chilling. At 2:43 a.m., the stroller sat still. At 2:44, the camera glitched. At 2:45, a pale child stood beside it, wobbling. Eyes fully black. Mouth open in a soundless scream. Then it climbed into the stroller and vanished. Gone. As if it never existed. Children in the neighborhood began talking about the baby with no face. He comes at night, one kid said. He just wants to go out and play. Play what? The teacher asked. The boy smiled. He wants to be you. That weekend, a teenage babysitter named Lana was found curled in a closet, whispering over and over, "I didn't let him in. He came in anyway." The baby she was watching? Gone. But the stroller was found in the backyard, filled with teeth, not human teeth. The town went on alert. Strollers were banned. Curfews were set. But it didn't help. Each night, more strollers appeared. And each morning, someone else went missing. All under the age of 5. Except one man, a sleepwalker named Ben, who was found wandering Sycamore Street at dawn. When asked what he saw, he said, "There's a nursery underground, rows of cribs, all full." "Full of what?" the officer asked. Ben shook, started crying. "Full of us." No one believed it until the last baby disappeared. Emily Greer, 6 months old, vanished from a locked apartment on the 10th floor. Her stroller reappeared that night on Sycamore Street, rocking and filled with pacifiers all soaked in blood. Locals say if you pass that street during summer twilight, you can still hear the soft squeak of stroller wheels. Sometimes, if you look closely, you'll see a baby. But don't go near, because that thing isn't lost. It's hunting. He was dropping off a late-night parcel when he saw a baby crawling across Maple Ridge Road at 2:17 a.m. in the rain. He stopped, horrified, jumped out and wrapped the infant in his jacket. But when he looked down, there was no baby, just soaked pavement and bite marks on his arms. By the end of the week, 7 similar calls came in, all at night, all in different parts of town. Crawling babies, missing babies, silent cries from empty cribs. Jenna, a first-time mom, installed a baby monitor with a motion detector. At 3:03 a.m., the alarm pinged. The screen showed her baby, Oliver, standing in the crib. But his arms were too long, his eyes too dark. He looked at the camera and grinned. Then the feed went black. When she ran into the room, the crib was empty. The window was open, and on the floor, tiny, wet handprints, leading to the closet. That closet led nowhere. They opened the wall, nothing behind it but solid wood. Still, every night, new handprints appeared, and the crying came back. Not Oliver's voice, but dozens of babies wailing together. A local urban explorer live-streamed from an abandoned daycare across town. He joked about the ghost babies. Then his flashlight hit something in the dark, a pile of strollers, each one gently rocking. He walked closer. One stroller stopped. The others turned to face him. The stream cut off. The town sealed the daycare the next day. Didn't matter. The next baby vanished 3 blocks away, then another, always at 3:03 a.m., always in silence. Finally, a group of parents stayed up, armed with lights and cameras. They sat outside their children's rooms, eyes on the clocks. When it hit 3:03, all the doors locked themselves. All the lights went out. And in the darkness, they heard crawling. Thousands of little hands. Nails against the walls. Breathing under the beds. One father screamed as something yanked him into the hallway. His last words were, "They're not babies. They're something else." Some say it started with a ritual. Others blame a cursed toy company. No one really knows. But every year on the same rainy week in June, babies go missing again. And if you hear soft crawling behind you at night, don't turn around, because whatever's following you wants to wear your skin. The Pacifier Trail. It started with pacifiers, found everywhere, in storm drains, in mailbox slots, hanging from tree branches by wet strings. No babies missing. Not yet. Just these random, chewed-up pacifiers, sometimes with blood on the plastic. Then came the gurgling sounds at night. Amanda was babysitting her niece in a small Ohio town when the first real incident occurred. Baby Chloe had just fallen asleep when Amanda heard something crawling in the hall. She thought it was the dog, but the dog was outside. The sound came closer, wet, slapping hands dragging limbs. Then, a pacifier rolled into the room, still dripping. Amanda slammed the door and called the cops. They arrived within minutes. The baby was safe. But one officer checked the attic and never came down. His partner found him curled up inside a child-sized bassinet, suckling on a pacifier, eyes rolled back. He didn't speak again. The town put out an alert, urging parents to monitor their babies, lock their windows, and discard any found pacifiers. But the pacifiers kept returning. Some appeared inside locked homes. Others were found in cribs, beside peacefully sleeping children who began acting strange. One baby laughed constantly even while asleep. One tried to crawl into the fireplace at 2 a.m. Another whispered in an ancient language, captured on baby monitors. Then the disappearances began. CCTV caught one baby standing on its crib rail at 3:03 a.m. Then it jumped, levitated midair, and vanished into the ceiling. When officers removed the drywall, all they found was a spiral carved into the beams, the same spiral that had been etched into each found pacifier. A group of paranormal investigators called it the Trail, a breadcrumb path of corrupted pacifiers leading to a dimension made entirely for infants. Abandoned, cursed, malformed infants. Some theorize it's where stillborn souls wander. Others believe a cult created it to summon a perfect baby god. All they know is, once your child takes a pacifier from the trail, they're marked. Now every night, new pacifiers appear. And if you follow the trail long enough, you'll hear it. Hundreds of tiny voices, sucking in rhythm, waiting. Crawl space. Megan lived on the 5th floor of an old Brooklyn apartment with her 1-year-old son, Oliver. Oliver had just learned to crawl. Every morning, Megan would find him under the furniture, wedged between tight corners, or halfway under the fridge. She thought it was normal curiosity, until the night she heard laughing, but not Oliver's laugh. It came from beneath the crib. She checked. Nothing there. But her baby monitor started picking up whispers in the static, not in English, clicking noises, moaning, wet smacks like lips opening and closing slowly. Then, the crawlspace door behind her bed cracked open by itself. It was bolted shut. She had never opened it. Inside was darkness, and a baby rattle still shaking. Oliver began acting strange. He stopped crying. He would just stare at corners, grinning like he was waiting. Sometimes Megan would leave the room and return seconds later to find Oliver sitting on top of shelves he couldn't possibly reach. One night she caught him crawling into the crawl space. She tried pulling him out, but something pulled back. Hard. She screamed. The walls trembled. The baby monitor burst into flames. When she finally yanked Oliver free, he was smiling wide, eyes completely black. She moved out the next morning. But that night, across town, a couple called 911 after finding a baby crawling in their kitchen. The baby was not theirs. It had black eyes and whispered in an unknown tongue. When police arrived, they found the baby gone, but their infant son missing. No one talks about the crawlspace children. They move silently through vents and cracks. They swap places. And once your baby stares into a corner for too long, it's already too late. Because one day the one that comes back out isn't yours. Playdate. Melissa and Jordan were thrilled to move into their new suburban home with their 1-year-old daughter, Lily. It was a quiet neighborhood. Too quiet. The strange thing was the playground across the street, always empty during the day. But at night, the swings moved on their own, and children's laughter echoed long after dark. One morning, Melissa looked at the baby monitor and saw Lily playing with another baby. A little boy. She froze. She was home alone. Rushing to the nursery, Melissa found Lily alone, giggling at nothing. Jordan thought she imagined it, but it happened again. The baby monitor showed the boy, this time whispering into Lily's ear. Melissa looked back through the footage. The boy had no eyes, just deep pits that bled shadows. That night, Lily disappeared. Melissa woke to find the crib empty and the front door wide open. She found muddy handprints leading to the playground. Sprinting into the fog, she heard a voice calling, "Mama!" But it wasn't Lily's. It was deeper, older, mocking. Lily was on the swing, not swinging, just floating. Her mouth was open and someone else's voice spoke from it. "You left the gate open. Now we all come out to play." Behind her, dozens of toddlers emerged from the shadows, grinning, limping, dead-eyed. Melissa grabbed Lily and ran. They never went back. But every night since, she hears children's footsteps in the hall. Her new baby monitor shows other cribs, other children. One of them always turns and waves at the camera. And Lily? She no longer speaks. She just sings the same lullaby in a language Melissa can't identify. And sometimes, when she turns out the lights, the swing across the street creaks, alone, but still moving.